Stratovarius has been without Timo Tolkki, who happened to be, let's see, the band's leader, their principal songwriter, their principal lyricist, pretty much the band since 2008. They're still around. They've done a few things, but it's just not the same without Tolkki. Although, to be honest, the last record with him on it wasn't so great either. All the same, Tolkki has not been inactive during that time. Every few years, he's been coming out with a new Avalon record. Originally conceived as a trilogy, this is actually the fourth record in this series. It's a series of concept albums with a bunch of guest singers on them. Actually, you'll note this is on Frontiers Records, and that's kind of what Frontiers does, is supergroups or collaborative projects like this. And apparently this album was not even really something that Tolkki had planned. It was just a contractual obligation. That said, let's take a look. First of all, Angel with Sword. How cool is that?
So, what's with the naked people here?
The naked kneeling people?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe she's going to chop their heads off. I'm actually kind of hoping that's going to happen. I mean, honestly, these are supposed to be concept albums, but if anybody has any idea what the story's supposed to be, please clue me in, because I have no idea. Doesn't matter. Go on.
In the gatefold, we've got lyrics and all 8 singers, and then, of course, Timo Tolkki.
Did I mention that there's a zillion guest singers on these things? And people you recognize, too. We'll get to that.
Red vinyl here.
Really cool. Transparent red. I like it. Before we even talk about the music contained herein, I gotta say, this record sounds fantastic. It's produced by a guy named Aldo Lonobile. I think the first couple of Avalon records were produced by Tolkki and everything else by this Italian team. And Tolkki also says that they have a team of songwriters that comes in here and does some work as well. It doesn't sound like he has a whole lot of control over the project from everything I've seen in interviews, but anyway, the production is fantastic. This is a great sounding record. The band is tight and punchy, everything cuts through the mix nicely, and every single vocalist is given the chance to shine.
Musically, the songs here are really centered on the vocals.
Hugely.
I really wish they had more guitar in a lot of places. But the vocals, however, are fantastic.
And honestly, it feels to me like a lot of these songs are specifically written with specific vocalists in mind, almost as showcases for the singers in question. And what she said about the lack of guitars, I don't want to make it sound like there's not a lot of guitars in the album, because there are. I mean, Tolkki's all over the place on here, and he is, as he has always been, a phenomenal player with chops to burn and always really cool melodic things to play. But how do I even want to put this? He's not what I guess you would call a dominating presence. His guitar isn't. It feels like it really is sitting back, laying back, and taking a back seat to the vocals. And in a lot of cases, even with everything else that's going on, a lot of times the verses, he'll just drop down to bass and drums and a little bit of keys in the background. When he does play, it's great stuff, but it's not anything like the central dominating force the guitars often are on a heavy metal album. And on the other side of the coin, you see a record like this, if you look at like the first couple Avalon records, or Avalon's closest counterpart with like Avantasia, you don't get a lot of orchestrations or anything either. And I feel like either one of those things, either like a lot of orchestrations for an album like this, or a lot more guitar, would really help push some of this stuff over the top. So even though the songs for the most part are excellent, sonically I kind of feel like this album fails to meet its full potential. But Maya, you were saying?
The title track comes closest to a Stradivarius song.
Yeah, totally. Speedy track, double kick, features that YouTube guy Pellick on vocals.
There are some very poppy songs, Just Collapse and Memories.
Both those songs feature Katerina Nix, but Memories is a duet with Brittany Slays as well, from Canada. The two songs are very much cut from the same cloth. This is pop with a heavy metal coating here, ladies and gentlemen. But the songs kind of carry themselves, and these two ladies really pull it off, especially on Memories.
Waiting for you, waiting for a chance to sail my ocean child. Hold me tight when I'm lost, I'm breaking down inside. I feel my demons call from the past. I should be stronger than this.
On the other side of the coin, on Beautiful Lie, you get this really cool dance pop meets metal vibe with none other than James LaBrie from Dream Theater on frickin' vocals here.
Without some darkness, I know they won't be alone. I feel tired to see them core. Free their hearts from the stones without looking back.
If you just want to bang your head in classic 80s metal fashion, you could listen to Master of Hell and Beauty and War, both featuring Rafael Mendes.
Maybe you don't know who that is. That's the guy on YouTube from Brazil that pretty much sounds exactly like Bruce Dickinson. He's got a whole YouTube channel. What if Bruce Dickinson sang for X? You know, there's him singing Megadeth songs and Dio songs, Aerosmith, Queen, all over the map. And the guy really does sound like Bruce Dickinson. It is frightening. And he's actually got the two heaviest tracks on here with Master of Hell and Beauty and War, and performs them scorchingly. And also, by the way, he was on the debut Icon of Sin album this year, which we are also going to be reviewing very, very shortly. Or I guess I should say last year, wasn't it? We are catching up 2021. Starting in like a week, we'll only be reviewing 2022 albums. Sorry for the delays. Moving on. One of the best-known vocalists here, interestingly, is Fabio Leone. And also, interestingly, he gets some of the most forgettable moments on here, for being really honest. Aside from where we've already gone, there's not a whole lot to say about this platter because it's all kind of cut from the same cloth. What we have is the poppier side of metal, albeit extremely well written and well produced. Speaking of writing, it should be pointed out that according to the interviews I've seen, Timo Tolkki says he only wrote about half of this album. He says he did like 5 or 6 tracks, and the rest were done by some Italian songwriting team. There's no writing credits anywhere in this package, so I have no idea who wrote what, but overall the quality is fairly consistent. There are a few low points, but in general, it's a really solid record. My favorite, the aforementioned Master of Hell with Rafael Mendes on vocals. Least favorite, also aforementioned, Without Fear, featuring Fabio Leone. I think I pronounced that right. Yeah, the guy from Rhapsody of Fire. You know who he is.
My favorite song on this album is the beautiful ballad, The Fire and the Sinner, with Jake E. on lead and Brittany Slays.
Yeah, it says on the package, featuring Jake E. and Brittany Slays, but if we're being honest, Jake E. is the lead vocalist here. Slays just does the backing vocals during the choruses.
The fire and the sinner for all eternity. Give us the fire and the sinner for all eternity. Give the fire.
She really gets her chance to shine on, I think we mentioned it earlier, Memories, the third track on the album, in which she sings the entirety of the second verse.
Constantly wondering where I am when I have all the reasons to scream and shout. Yes,
Did I mention that there is just a who's who awesome slate of singers on this thing? We haven't even mentioned everybody. There are 8 vocalists on this platter.
My least favorite song on this album, well, that's hard to pick because this is a really good album. But if I have to pick one, it would have to be Truth.
Also featuring Jakey. This is a really strong collection of songs. It truly is. There's really nothing on her that I dislike. Most of it I really like, but at the same time, I almost feel like it's less than the sum of its parts. I'm rarely excited to sit down and listen to the whole thing. I'm not entirely sure how to quantify that, because once again, I like most of the songs, but there it is.
Are you kidding me? This album has tons of replay value.
And what's funny is I can totally get where you would see that, because it really is full of great songs, but it's like, I listen to a side and I'm like, okay, I'm good for a while. I'll come back and listen to the rest later. It's not an album that I have to force myself to turn off, I guess is what I'm trying to get at here. But full of really great stuff. I really can't knock it. So absolutely go out and buy it. Alright, that's all for this time. And until we meet again,
Crank it up a little louder.
Fresh and before